We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. You make us bold and we stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're off on this journey. There's no looking back. With Jesus to lead us, we're on the right track. Oh, 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 oh. Wide open spaces for wide open eyes. We're looking ahead for the next big surprise. Oh, 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 oh. We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. You make us bold and we stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. We're off on this journey. There's no looking back. With Jesus to lead us, we're on the right track. Oh, 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 oh. Wide open spaces for wide open eyes. We're looking ahead for the next big surprise. Oh, 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 oh. We trust in you, Jesus. You're all that we need. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. We're trusting in you. You give us hope and life that's forever. And we stand together. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you. Your power will pull us through. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you. Trusting in you. We're trusting in you. Trusting in you.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Kidsweek, where we're learning about how Jesus' power pulls us through. Trust Jesus. Today, we're going to learn about how Jesus' power gives us hope. We all understand those times when we just feel like something isn't going to happen, or, it's just a helpless moment and we feel so down. Those are the times when we can trust Jesus to fill us full of hope, and we can know that everything will be okay. Trust Jesus. Yesterday, as you may remember, our friend Cam was dealing with some sort of rock slide here at the Rocky Railway, and it was a big problem. I'm wondering if maybe we could find out how things turned out for him. Maybe he's around here somewhere. Oh, Cam. Oh, Cam! Oh no! How are you doing? How was everything with the rock slide?
Well, yesterday, my crew and I worked and worked and worked and pushed and shoved, and we got all the rocks off the track.
Great.
But it turns out that the rocks were so heavy that they damaged the track.
Oh no. Oh.
Fixing that is a whole other problem. So that train's not going anywhere at the moment.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, but it'll get fixed eventually, right?
Unfortunately, eventually is not okay. Do you know what's in that train?
No.
Well, that train is filled with M&Ms.
Wow.
Do you know how much people love M&Ms?
Oh. No.
They really love their M&Ms. So let's just think about this for a minute. If we can't get down this here mountain, those M&Ms won't get delivered.
Okay.
And if we don't deliver those M&Ms, people will get mad. And if people get mad, they're going to start to yell at us. And if they start to yell at us, then I'm going to get scared because I don't like it when people yell at us. And then I'll get scared, and maybe it's better if we just stay up here on this mountain forever, and then the angry people won't find me, but then... I think I just ran out of steam.
I'll say. Whew. Well, Cam, nobody here is mad at you, right? And the track will get fixed eventually, so you don't have to worry.
I don't know. This situation feels pretty hopeless. All I want to do is get on my train and blow my whistle and chug, chug away. Toot, toot.
Oh. Cam, don't lose hope. As we're learning this week, Jesus' power gives us hope. Imagine this. Here, stand right here. Look ahead, close your eyes. Imagine you're driving your train. You're behind the wheel. You're driving past meadows. You go around a beautiful bend, and you enter a dark tunnel. And it's very dark, and you can't see anything. But wait. At the end of the tunnel, there's a light. Can you see it? Can you see the light, Cam? Okay, open your eyes.
Wow, I really do see it.
That's hope. Like the light at the end of a dark tunnel, when things seem dark or hopeless, Jesus' power gives us hope. Trust Jesus. So even though you're stuck here for a little while longer because of the broken track, there's still hope.
Wow, it really is nice to put your hope in someone who won't let you down or get mad at you about M&Ms. Hey, wait a minute. I see what you guys are doing. Stop eating those M&Ms.
Yikes, it seems like your crew is really hungry. I don't think those M&Ms are going to last much longer.
Hey, thank you. Stop eating those M&Ms over there.
Okay, bye, Cam. Good luck. Hopefully everything works out for him. We'll probably see him again later. Well, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day learning about how Jesus' power gives us hope. Trust Jesus. See you back here later. Bye.
Everywhere I go on this road, high and low, where I go with you. So I won't be afraid, this my home, come what may. Where I go with you. Where I go with you. There's a spirit I cannot contain. There's a spirit I cannot contain. The same power that raised Jesus up from the grave, the same spirit I cannot contain. Everywhere I go on this road, high and low, where I go with you. So I won't be afraid, this my home, come what may. Where I go with you. Where I go with you. Where I go with you. Breath upon these bones, your fire in my soul. Your kingdom is my home, and I don't walk alone. Everywhere I go on this road, high and low, where I go with you. So I won't be afraid, this my home, come what may, where I go with you. Everywhere I go on this road, high and low, where I go with you. So I won't be afraid, this my home, come what may, where I go with you. Where I go with you. Where I go with you.
Hey Tweens, and welcome back for another day of Bible adventures. Today, our Bible point is going to be Jesus' power gives us hope. To start off, let me tell you a really cool story about a time in my life when Jesus' power gave me hope. I love to swim, and last summer, I was on one of my many swimming trips when something bad happened. I had been driving 2 hours from New Hampshire, where I was swimming outside, back to my house, when suddenly my engine started making a terrible noise. I was only 1 mile away from my house, so I kept going, even though the noise was pretty scary. And in hindsight, I probably should have pulled over, but I'm thankful that I made it back home safely. When I got home, I noticed that there was oil all over the back of the windshield, under my car, and leaking onto the driveway. Here's the thing, when your car does not have any oil in it, that can cause major engine damage. And engines are very, very, very expensive to fix. Like thousands of dollars kind of expensive to fix, especially if you have to replace the whole engine. So I spent the whole rest of the next day trying to get a tow truck to my house so that I could tow my car to go get it fixed. I felt terrible. I had been saving up for a new car, and if I would have had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get the oil leak and the engine fixed, that would have taken out so much money from my savings for that new car. So I was spending a whole lot of time worrying and also feeling pretty angry at God. While I was trying to find a tow truck, I also did a lot of research on where the oil leak could be coming from. Originally, I thought it might be one part, but then a friend of mine who was also helping me to do some research, he found out some information on this part called the engine oil cooler pipe. Turns out that on many Toyota Highlanders that were made right around the same time that my car was, this engine oil cooler pipe can sometimes develop tiny holes in the rubber tube, and those tiny holes turn into larger holes and leak out all of your engine oil, causing major engine damage. And guess what? This problem was so common that there was something called a 10-year extended warranty. I don't know if you guys have probably heard that on a car commercial before. A 10-year extended warranty on this part, which means that if you bought the car and you have had it for less than 10 years and that part breaks, Toyota will fix it for free. My car was 10 years old minus 1 month. Actually, not even 1 month. It was like 3 weeks away from being 10 years old. So if that oil leak had happened just 3 weeks later, I would have had to pay for everything. All of the fixes, the oil leak, the engine damage. But because this oil leak happened at just the right time, my car got fixed for free. And Toyota replaced that rubber part with the hole in it with a metal part So the car is even better than it was before. Jesus used his power to turn what seemed like a terrible situation into something amazing for me. All right, so back to hope. First, let's talk about the word hope. What is hope? What is something that you might say you hope for? Well, I hope that I get ice cream after dinner. Well, that case, it might come true, but it also might not. So that kind of hope is kind of like flipping a coin. Ready? Heads or tails? Heads. Did you guess heads? All right, I'll try another time. Heads or tails? It's tails this time. So a lot of the time when we use the word hope, we're talking about something that we wish would happen or that we wish is going to happen, but it might not. However, when we talk about putting our hope in Jesus, that's a different kind of hope. It's not like flipping a coin where sometimes you get heads and sometimes you get tails. Putting your hope in Jesus is more like gravity. What happens when I throw this ball up in the air? It comes down, right? And every time I throw this ball up into the air, it's going to come down. Time after time after time again. You throw a ball into the air, it's going to come right down. The hope that we put in the Lord is the kind of hope that never fails. It's not a halfsies. Every single time we can trust Jesus. In the Bible, hope is being confident that what the Lord has promised, he will do. The Lord has promised that he will never leave us or abandon us. And hope says, I believe that because I know that Jesus always does what he says he's going to do. Just like this ball always comes back down. Hope is trusting that Jesus is who he says he is. Jesus is love. He is good. Everything that he does is for our good. Even when bad things come our way, Jesus is still good. And hope says, I believe in that. All right, so we're going to grab our Bibles now. So everyone, go grab your Bible. If you need to pause the video in order to go grab your Bible, you can go do that. And when you get back, we are going to turn to the book of Matthew. And the book of Matthew is the very first book of the New Testament. In my Bible, it is on page 955, so it's going to be kind of near the end of your Bible. Remember, you can always look at the table of contents if you need help finding it. Now, in Tweens, we sometimes do things a little differently than the younger kids. Obviously, one example of this is that we are doing a completely different craft because we want to do something with you guys that's a little bit more challenging than what the younger kids can do. And some of the time, we also do different Bible stories. So today, we are going to be doing a Bible story that is similar to what the younger kids are doing, but it's a little bit different. So turn to Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 through 23. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, Jesus was there alone, but the boat that the disciples are in by this time was a long way from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus came to them, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It's a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come out on the water." Jesus said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when Peter saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took a hold of Peter, saying, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got back into the boat, the wind ceased. And those in the boat worshiped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." So let's go back through this. Jesus had sent the disciples off in a boat. He sent the crowds of people away. This was right after when Jesus fed 5,000 people with only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. So Jesus sent everyone away, and the disciples on the boat crossed the lake. And then Jesus climbed up the side of a mountain because he wanted to spend some time in prayer with his heavenly Father. Jesus prayed late into the night, and from where he was at, he could see the disciples in their boat, in the middle of the lake, stuck in the middle of a storm. So Jesus went out to them, let me ask you a question first. Have you ever seen someone walk on water? Yeah, neither have I. So the disciples are in their boat. The wind and the waves are going crazy. It's the middle of the night, so they can't really see a whole lot when they see someone walking on water. So they think it's a ghost, and they're terrified. And that's when Jesus speaks to them. "Take heart, have courage. It's me, it's Jesus. Don't be afraid." And I love this part. Peter shouts back, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come out on the water." Would you guys like a chance to walk on water? I know I would. I'm actually a little surprised that the other disciples in the boat didn't ask to come out too. But then again, maybe I'm not understanding how scary the wind and the waves and this whole storm was. Maybe the other disciples had a really good reason for wanting to stay in the boat. It's one thing to want to walk on water when you're looking out on a lake and you're right next to the shore and everything is peaceful and calm and still. It's another thing entirely to want to step out of your boat, which is in the middle of the lake, and the wind is blowing around like this and the waves are going like this. That's an entirely different thing. So Peter, he steps out of the boat, and he's doing it. He's actually walking on water. He starts walking towards Jesus when, what does he do? He takes his eyes off of Jesus. The second Peter loses his focus on Jesus, he sees the wind, he sees the waves, and he was afraid. The moment he took his eyes off of Jesus and started looking at everything else that was around him, everything that was scary, the wind, the waves, these disciples were in this boat for hours. They were just supposed to get on the boat and just go across the lake and meet Jesus at the other side. No, they had been stuck in the middle of the lake in this storm. They were terrified. So the second that Peter takes his eyes off of Jesus, and instead of looking at Jesus, he looks at all of the scary stuff around him, his trust in Jesus faltered. And he started to sink. So he cried out, "Lord, save me!" And Jesus came up to him and pulled him out of the water. And Jesus asks him, "Why did you doubt?" And here's something cool about this story that I never noticed when I was a kid. When did the storm stop? When did all of the wind and the waves calm down? It was blowing that whole time, and it only stopped once Peter and Jesus got back into the boat. Because Jesus is all powerful, I think that, at least for me and maybe other people, we can sometimes get angry or upset because something bad will happen to us, and we might think, if Jesus is all powerful, he could have stopped it. He could have stopped that bad thing from happening to me. I think there's something really special that we can learn from this story. When Jesus was on that mountain, he saw the disciples caught in this scary, windy storm. Jesus could have stopped the storm right then, but he didn't. I believe that there are plenty of things that Jesus does stop and that Jesus does protect us from, things that we don't even know about. But I also believe that in order for us to grow as people, for our hearts to become more and more like Jesus, that sometimes we need to go through tough stuff. And when we go through tough stuff, when we experience suffering and pain, God uses those moments to change us for the better. In fact, in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, it says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." God can take anything, even the bad things, and use it for our good. I think in this case, Jesus wanted to teach Peter, and maybe the other disciples too, a lesson about trusting him. So when Jesus was on top of the mountain and looking down, and he saw the storm that the disciples were caught in, Jesus didn't calm the storm right away. Jesus came to them. He walked out to them in the middle of the storm to teach them a wonderful lesson about trusting him. And it was only after Peter and the other disciples had been through the lesson that Jesus calmed the storm. All right, so we're gonna do another demonstration now, but I need to go grab some of the things that I have off stage. So I'll be right back in just a second. All right, so what I have here is a Ziploc bag full of water. It's a little bit heavy because there's quite a bit of water in it. And I have a bunch of sharp pencils. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever poked a hole in a bag when it's full of water or some other liquid and it gets everywhere. This very unfortunately happened to me in my backpack once. I actually had tomato soup in my backpack. Don't carry tomato soup in your backpack. It did not turn out well. But anyways, so we're going to do a little bit of an object lesson here to think about what it means to trust God and to put your hope in God, even when lots of hard things are happening. So I'm gonna ask my friend Andrew to come back out. And Andrew is going to help me with this. So Andrew, you are in the hot seat. Andrew, do you like getting wet?
No.
No.
Am I getting wet?
Well, I don't know. What do you think?
Mom, take my knife.
All right, so we have a bag of water.
Yeah.
We have some nice sharp pencils.
Yeah.
And I am going to be holding this bag of water over your head.
Oh no. I should have worn quick dry.
I'm going to be pushing the pencils into the bag. And we're going to see what happens. Yeah?
I think I know the results.
Well, how are you feeling right now?
In a mood not to get wet.
In a mood not to get wet. What if we were to up the ante a little bit?
The what?
So when I say up the ante, that means what if we were to make it a little bit riskier?
I would not like that.
Great. All right, Rebecca, could you come on stage and bring us the wonderful piece of technology that you guys brought today? Andrew, we're going to have you hold on to this while I poke holes into this bag. And what exactly is this, Andrew?
It's a camera.
It's a camera, and I hear it's from someone special, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's from your Mimi, right?
My grandmother. Yeah.
Your grandmother. So this is his grandmother's camera that I'm having him hold while I poke pencils into a Ziploc bag of water over his head. Okay, so what we're going to do is, I guess I can hold all this at once. I think I can. So I'm going to hold this over your head, and you might get like maybe one drip or something. I mean, the bag's still just a teensy bit wet from me putting it in the sink. So maybe you might feel one drip, but I'm going to tell you, the water will not pour out on you.
Got it.
Got it?
I hope this works.
Yeah, I hope so too. All right.
Maybe I should have brought something a little less valuable.
Hold the camera up to you because we're under the water. Ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to poke it through.
Oh, I did this with a balloon.
Do you feel anything?
Nope. Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness.
Ready for number 2?
Can I do it? No. Oh, you're doing it over my head again! Of course! I really hope this does not fail.
Anything yet?
It's completely drenched.
Yes, it looks very drenched. Number 3?
Yep. How many pencils can you stick in a piece of plastic?
That's a good
before it
question. I'm not
pops?
sure.
Don't squeeze it.
You're still good, right? So I have a question for you. After that first one went through and you actually got to take a look at it and you were like, oh, hey, that's actually in there and it's like not dripping. Did it feel a little bit easier the second time that I held it over your head and put in number 2?
And then easier again after.
And then easier again? All right. I'm going to do one more then.
Whew. Oh, goodness.
Can I put it right over your camera?
Oh. Sure.
All right, just hold it right under here. Ready? I'll poke it right here.
Camera still works.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for helping me with this.
Oh, it's starting to drip! It's starting to drip!
Oh. There is a teeny bead of water that is coming out, probably because I keep shaking it. Oh no, there's a teeny bit of water. Yeah, no, it's fine. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrew, for helping me. Can you grab the bag? I mean, this is the bag, not the stool on your way out. Thanks. So I picked this demonstration because I think it's a really great representation of putting our hope into Jesus. You saw Andrew, right? When we had the pencils and we were getting ready to poke it, he was pretty scared, right? He was scared that the water was going to leak all over him. And I think that's true sometimes when bad things happen to us. When hard things come our way, it can make us nervous or scared or angry because we think that if something bad comes our way, it's going to poke a hole in what we believe about God. We believe that God is good, that God loves us, and when painful things come our way, it can be challenging to trust that God is still good, that God still loves us, even through all of these bad things. But I think what was really cool is that the more we put the pencils through, you could see the easier and easier it was for Andrew to trust that the water wasn't going to fall on him. And that's true with us too. The first time something hard comes our way, we might be wondering, is Jesus still good? Does Jesus still love me? But the more things that happen to us, the more that life throws our way and the more suffering that we go through, we come out the other side and we see that Jesus is still good. Jesus still loves us, and Jesus never failed us. He's still there, and he's just as firm and secure as before the hard things even came. All right, so I'm gonna go put this away before I drop it and actually break it, because I don't want to get wet. All right, I'll be right back. So, I have one more story to tell you before we go. I'm sure that many of you have something at home that is very special to you, something that you've had for a long time and comforts you. That kind of special something that's like a blanket or a stuffed animal that you sleep with or take with you on long trips. So I have something special like that, and I've had it since I was a baby. I call it blankie. Now, it's not a normal kind of blankie. It's not fuzzy or soft. It can't keep you warm, and you really can't even snuggle with it. Honestly, it's just a stiff piece of canvas fabric, not soft or snuggly at all. But somehow, that became my special something, my comfort object, that I took with me everywhere. On vacation, to the first day of kindergarten, and even to college. Yep, you heard me right. I took blankie with me to college. I mean, blankie was my comfort object. I wasn't just gonna leave blankie behind. So in my junior year, I lived in a dorm that had a setup of bedrooms and bathrooms and kitchens for us to cook in. And then it had one room that was called the floor lounge. It was basically like a living room. It had couches and a TV and bookshelves, and everyone on our floor got to use the room and share it. So as you can probably imagine, with about 30 people sharing the same room and watching TV and having get-togethers in there, it would get pretty messy. One night, I carried blankie into the floor lounge. I'm not really sure why I did that, why I brought blankie with me. Maybe I was like sharing some story about it, or maybe I had a friend where we were talking about like comfort objects and we were comparing them, and I was like, haha, look at my blankie. It doesn't look like a blankie. I don't know why, but anyways, so I had brought it into the floor lounge, and then at some point the next day, I realized that I had left blankie in the floor lounge overnight. Now, at this point, it was the afternoon, and I went back into the floor lounge to go find blankie, only when I walked in to the floor lounge, it was clean. No soda cans, no books. It was completely clean. Apparently, they had cleaned out the entire room that morning, and they had thrown everything away. So I asked a friend to help me look around for blankie. We looked under blankets, we looked behind bookshelves, we looked around the TV stand, we looked behind the sofas, we looked in all the cracks of the sofas, we looked underneath the sofas, we looked everywhere. But the room was empty. Blankie was gone. Blankie had been thrown away by someone who thought it was a piece of trash. My comfort object that I had had since I was a baby for 20 years was gone. It was a really sad day. So about 2 years later, the most amazing thing happened. I was hanging out with my friend Kevin. We were going into the basement to find a DVD. We walked down the stairs and went around the corner, and we started walking from the bottom of the stairs across the room when I heard a strange noise. Kevin, who was walking in front of me, suddenly stops, and I run into him. Like, I literally face planted in his back, wondering what it was that made him stop walking, and also what that strange noise was that I heard. I bent to the side and peered around him and looked down at the floor. I screamed, "Blanky!" It was Blanky. My Blanky that had been thrown away 2 years ago. And it was disgusting. Blanky was covered in like this dust or dirt, and it had all these chips and cracks on it. I carefully unfolded it. I brought it upstairs into the bathroom. I washed it, and I laid it out to dry. It's funny because the dirt stains are still kind of there on Blanky, even though I washed it. But I like it better that way because it reminds me about where Blanky has been. Literally a trash dump for 2 years. And how Jesus did a miracle just for me. So you might be saying, okay, that's cool, Christina, but that's just an example of something good happening in your life. And I thought that we were talking about putting our hope in Jesus even when things are bad, like not just when they're good. And if you thought that, you're right. So the miracle part with Blanky, that's the first part of the story. Let me tell you the other part. So around that time of my life, when Jesus did that miracle and gave me back Blanky that had been sitting in a trash dump for 2 years, things were not going so great. My grandma had died. And I also had a friend who started ignoring me and being mean to me. And then after like 6 months or a year of that, she told me she didn't even want to be my friend anymore. So that's when Blanky came back into my life. But the bad things didn't stop there. More grandparents died. Someone who was looking for an apartment with me ditched me and left me with nowhere to live. And then someone used a lie about me to fire me from my job. And then I lost the 2 people in my life that I love more than anyone in the whole world. So sometime after that, I was praying. Sometime after Blanky came back into my life, maybe a year afterwards, I was praying. And completely out of the blue, Jesus spoke to me. A voice in my head appeared and said, "I brought Blanky back to you at just the right time because I knew you would need it." Jesus didn't stop the storm for Peter and the disciples when he saw it from on top of the mountain. Instead, Jesus came to them. He was with them in the middle of the storm, and he taught them a very important lesson about trusting him. I don't have any answers for why all those bad things happened to me. But here's what I do know. No matter what was happening to me no matter what suffering and pain I was going through, Jesus was with me. He was there with me through all of it. Jesus could have miraculously given me back Blanky whenever he wanted to. But because he loves me, he gave me back Blanky in that miraculous way at just the right time, when he knew I needed it. So even when bad things happen to me, even when I don't understand why bad things are happening to me, I can look at Blanky. Because to me, Blanky represents that Jesus is with me, comforting me, even in my suffering. And Blanky is also my reminder of how Jesus has the power to do anything. I mean, guys, literally, I am not kidding you. Blanky was thrown away. Blanky was in a trash dump for 2 years, and Jesus teleported Blanky into that basement that I was in and brought Blanky back to me. Not only is Blanky my reminder of how Jesus has the power to do anything, it's my reminder that Jesus loves me so much that he uses his power for my good. Jesus sees me. He knows everything that happens to me. And when I'm stuck in the middle of whatever storm life throws at me, Jesus is right there with me. Just like he is right there with you, no matter what. So here's the other thing that I want us to take away from the Bible story. When did Peter begin to sink? It was when he took his eyes off Jesus. It was when he started looking at all of the bad and scary things around him that he let his fear take over his hope. So today, I want to encourage you to keep your eyes on Jesus and to put your hope in Jesus, even when something bad happens to you. Hope says, I know Jesus is with me, and I know he wants what is best for me. Hope says, I know Jesus is all-powerful, and I know he can do anything. And hope says, I know that even if something bad happens to me, that I can still trust Jesus, because Jesus is good, and he loves me, and he is going to be right by my side no matter what. All right, so before we wrap up today, I want to end in a little bit of prayer, just like we did yesterday. So today, I want you to think about something that has happened to you, that has caused you pain, that has caused you suffering, or even just something that was really challenging for you in the moment. Something that maybe when you look at it, you say to yourself, I don't know, Jesus, if you are still good. Jesus, I don't know if you were there with me. Jesus, I don't know if I can trust you anymore. And I want to tell you right now that that's okay. That's okay to have feelings like that, because we're human, we're not perfect, right? It's not like with the water thing, and I'm sticking the pencils into it. I'm like, yeah, I can trust Jesus no matter what happens, because we're not perfect. And when the storms of life come our way, we're just like Peter. We get unsteady. We take our eyes off of Jesus and we see everything that's around us. So today, I want you to spend a little bit of time talking to Jesus about something like that has happened to you, something that's been bad in your life, something that has caused you pain. and just talk to Jesus about your fears around it, or about any anger you might feel. Like, why did it happen? Why weren't you there, Jesus? Or maybe, Jesus, I don't believe that you're still good. Because I think that something that is so important that we need to do is when we have thoughts like that inside of our mind, when we take our eyes off of Jesus and we're looking around, is the best thing that we can do is to come right back to Jesus and talk to him about it. Talk to him about your anger. Talk to him about the sadness that you feel. Anything that's inside of you that's causing turmoil and that's saying, I don't know if I can trust Jesus anymore. I don't know if I can put my hope in him. Talk to Jesus about it. Trust me, I have been there so many times. And so has King David. There's somebody in the Bible called King David who wrote a lot of Psalms. So many of the Psalms are King David saying, God, what is going on? What are you doing? Can I actually trust you? But by talking to God about it, David was able to move through those feelings and come to a place of trusting in God again. So I just want us to spend a little bit of time doing that, a little bit of time talking to God. And I'm not saying that talking to God right now is going to, fix everything in the moment. It has been years of me working through some of those things where I say, Jesus, can I even trust you anymore? But the most important part is that no matter how many times your eyes lose focus on Jesus, that you come right back there and you come right back to that relationship and start talking to him again. All right, so just like yesterday, I'm going to start us off in prayer. Find whatever position is best for your body so that you can focus on talking to Jesus. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for being with us all the time, for never leaving us and for never abandoning us. Even when we may feel like we're alone, Jesus, the Bible tells us that you have never left us and that you never will. Jesus, we know that we can put our hope in you. We know that we can say, look at what Jesus has promised. It's going to be true no matter what. Or look at who Jesus is. Jesus' character, his love and his trustworthiness and his goodness, that will never change. And those are things that we can put our hope in, a hope that never fails. But Jesus, some of the time, we're like Peter, and we're in the middle of a storm where life is throwing things at us and we're suffering, we're in pain, we're in turmoil, and so we take our eyes off of you. And we look around at the things that life is throwing us and we think to ourselves, Jesus, can I really trust you? Can I really believe that you are good? So Jesus, right now, we just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you about maybe something that we have already gone through, something that when we think about, something from our past, that when we think about it, we still feel sad, or we still feel angry at you, maybe even. Or maybe it's something that's happening in our lives right now that's causing us pain or suffering. Or maybe even it's just something in the future that we're afraid might happen, and we're afraid that if it does happen, would I still be able to trust in you, Jesus? So Jesus, we just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking to you because, well, I know that at least I have learned that whenever I'm feeling upset, the best thing that I can do is to come to you and to pour out all of my troubles onto you, and to know that you listen to me whenever I pray, whenever I talk to you. So we're just going to spend a little bit of time right now talking to you about these things, Jesus. Jesus, we thank you that we can talk to you about anything. Jesus, thank you for being such a good listener, and that whenever we feel sad or maybe even angry at you, that we can still talk to you. We can pour out all these troubles and all these feelings on you, and you listen. Thank you, Jesus, so much for being there and for giving us comfort, for always being with us and for never leaving us. And Jesus, right now, I pray that for all of these tweens that are listening, that you will plant a seed inside of their heart, a seed of hope, so that when they come to these places, these valleys that they have to walk through that are full of suffering or pain or even something scary, Jesus, that hope inside of their heart will have grown and that they will be able to trust you. They will be able to put their hope in your character and in your promises, that they will be able to know and know deep inside of their hearts that you are good, that you love them, and that you never leave them. Thank you, Jesus, so much for that hope. Amen. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining me for another day of Bible adventures here at Lookout Point. Remember, Mr. Sam is going to be teaching our Bible story tomorrow, so you'll be seeing him instead of me. I'll see you back here on day 4. Bye.
God of heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand, you give me faith, and I will put my hope in you alone, in you alone. God of heaven and earth, you are amazing. You hold me up with your hand, you give me faith, and I will put my hope in you alone, in you alone.
I will
This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. Jesus made a place in heaven for me. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. Jesus made a place in heaven for me. This train is bound for glory. This train.
Okay, now let's bring it down.
This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. Jesus made a place in heaven for me. This train is bound for glory. This train. Oh, this train. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train is bound for glory. Jesus made a place in heaven for me. This train is bound for glory. This train. This train. This train. This train.
My name's Annalise, and I'm 11 years old.
Annalise is a singer and accordion player.
I started playing the accordion at the age of 8 years old.
She plays a style of traditional Mexican music called norteño.
I love making music because I feel happy when I make music. I feel like I'm more closer to God because I sing for Him and I play for Him.
When she's not playing music, Annalise loves playing basketball with her brothers and taking care of all the animals on the ranch in Arizona where she lives.
On our ranch, we have horses, pigs, chickens, and goats. My horse's name is Frosty. He's a really nice horse. Sometimes he's really sleepy. He doesn't like to walk. I don't think he sleeps in the night or something, but he's really tired.
Annalise didn't know when she started playing music years ago that it would end up being so helpful and bringing hope to her and her grandmother when they went through a hard time.
So my grandma was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017.
As her grandma fought cancer, Annalise and her accordion constantly kept her grandma's spirits up and helped her to keep fighting.
When I played my accordion to my grandma, I would be happy because I would see her happy. She would smile, be really happy, and my grandpa as well, he would be happy too. I usually play one of her favorite songs, which is Let's Praise the Lord, and she loved that song.
Annalise sings that song for us.
I'm gonna use my hands to praise the Lord. I'm gonna use my hands to praise the Lord. He is worthy to be praised. He is wonderful, marvelous, Lord of lords, kings of kings.
Annalise and her grandma held on to hope in Jesus, even though times were hard.
What brought me hope was that I would always see her pray. In my opinion, I would be sad when I would see her drink all those medicines that she would have to drink. But I knew she had hope that God would make a miracle in her.
After lots of praying and trusting in Jesus' power, Annalise's grandmother got better. God healed her from cancer.
Jesus' power gives us hope means to me Jesus has love for us. Jesus has the power for us to have hope in him.
In the Bible, in the book of Psalms, chapter 31, verse 24, it says, "So be strong and courageous, all you who put your hope in the Lord."
God's always with you. God loves you. God's here for you. God loves everyone equally. He would love you too.
Annalise learned that Jesus' power gives us hope.
Same power that rose Jesus from the grave, the same power that commands the dead to wake, lives in us, lives in us. The same power that moves mountains when he speaks, the same power that can calm a raging sea, lives in us, lives in us. He lives in us, he lives in us. We have hope that his promises are true in his strength. There is nothing we can't do, yes we know. There are greater things in store. We will not be overtaken, we will not be overcome. The same power that rose Jesus from the grave, the same power that commands the dead to wake, lives in us, lives in us. The same power that moves mountains when he speaks, the same power that can calm a raging sea, lives in us, lives in us. He lives in us, lives in us. Same power that rose Jesus from the grave, the same power that commands the dead to wake, lives in us, lives in us. Same power that moves mountains when he speaks, the same power that can calm a raging sea, lives in us, lives in us. He lives in us, lives in us. He lives in us, lives in us.
Hope you guys had fun today learning about how Jesus' power gives us hope. Trust Jesus. We'll see you back here tomorrow for some more fun. Bye, everybody.